Hopefully you feel the same, that I've gotten so much wisdom and insight from the interactions that I've had at this conference. So we're going to bring it home with this esteemed panel today. We thought it would be very relevant and important to talk about igniting your passion and unleashing your potential, particularly in this ever-changing era of technology. And we're going to hear from our panelists today about what happens when you combine passion and purpose together to drive success. So I'm going to start by asking the first question to all of you, and then if you could also please, as you answer the question, give an introduction of yourself, that would be wonderful. So how have you harnessed your passion to drive innovation and transformation within your respective organizations?
Okay, so I'm Stacy. I'm from Nashville. I want to thank everybody with an accent here. So everybody's didn't recognize me, but as soon as I opened my mouth, they're like, "Oh, you're Stacy from Nashville, aren't you?" But I've had a very long career, over 35 years. I started when I was 19 years old in data centers, believe it or not, as a co-op student. And from there, I started with 17 years with Humana. Then when I turned 40, I was just about to turn 40, I thought, if I'm going to go global, I need to do it now, and I did. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is you're never too old to go and grow. In these last 15 years, I'll say it, I've got 15 more to go. But I just want to say, taking those chances has made all the difference, and that road less traveled is more fun.
Hi, I'm Emily Tell, and I'm from Canada, specifically, represent, a town called Kitchener-Waterloo. It's about an hour and a half west of Toronto, just to give you all bearings. Very happy to be here today. I'm with Bison & Bird. I'm their head of digital transformation, and what that company does, first of all, let me just very Cole's notes, my career journey. I was at Manulife Financial, which is also known as John Hancock in the United States, for 21 years. I moved every 3 to 5 years to try something new and different. And I'm one of those rare birds that kind of fell into technology, where I started trying things as a business analyst and really loved breaking stuff and putting it back together and trying new things. And I'll be talking a little bit about what that's like as well. And now I moved from that big corporate Canada enterprise, working in a global role with a global tech stack, to now I'm with a startup, which is Bison & Bird, who specializes in helping small to medium businesses to identify their people, process, and program issues, and then find technology that can help them to be more efficient, effective, and profitable. So that's me. Oh, and the question. Sorry, I got segued. Okay. And the question, how to ignite your passion? So I would say, and I should probably thank our last speaker for this, but great storytelling is really, really, really important. So it's not enough to, obviously we already know the tech speak and we know the 1,000 different pieces of jargon and acronyms, but it's really important to be able to express where you're going in a visionary statement, not the cat poster I believe picture, but an actual I can see what the outcome is going to be, what the experience is going to be for our customer, for our employees. So being really great at storytelling and getting people on board with your idea, that's the way, through those stories and through the relationships and excitement that I've engendered. That's how I've brought people along on the innovation journey wherever I've gone in the various companies.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Wakefield. I'm a Vice President of Engineering at PlayStation. And let's see, I've been there about 9 years, and I'm located in San Diego, and I have a team of people here. Hi, ladies. Thank you for coming. And I would say, how do I ignite my passion? One of the things that I remember each and every day is that while we work in technology, and it's very important that we understand what software it is, what hardware it is, and what we're working on, we can never forget that truly we're in a business about people, making products and services for people. And so I fundamentally believe that what ignites my passion is just making sure that you focus on those relationships, because it's our job to really help people to pull up that ladder rung that might be missing.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, ladies. I am Shatabdi Sharma. I am from apparel industry, PVH, Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, and I'm responsible for the value chain application engineering services there. In my role at PVH, it's been about 8 years now. Passion to me means, when I wear the coat, I should feel happy about it. And when my consumers go and buy, whether it's a pair of shoe or shirt or trousers, they should feel happy about it. And that passion should reflect back on every single associate. So whatever we do day to day in our engineering world, which is very math and statistics oriented, it should connect back to that fabric that the world is wearing. And that to me is truly passion.
Stacey, I know you want to answer the question. I can feel you're like, I didn't answer my question.
I'm so excited to introduce myself, but I do want to bring something up real quick. How do I ignite my passion at my work? And one of the things is that it's not about me. It's about igniting the passion in the people around me. And most importantly, what I do is I have this, I do what they call kind of a walk the talk, and I talk to people. And I take that time to get to know them and what's their piece of the business and what's important to them. And then igniting their passion for what gaps can technology fill for you, rather than here's what you can do for me. So I first convince them and show them through my actions that I am a servant leader and that it's not about IT. But secondly, it is about IT, because if the business supports us, we support them, then we're all successful. So remember, your job is about figuring out what technology needs and how to provide that to them, and not the other way around. Open those conversations. That's how you're going to ignite. What do they need? What are they missing? And what's important to them? And they will always support you if you do that first. So my theory is it's an E4. To evolve an organization, you first have to educate yourself on what's important to the organization, educate them on how you can help them. Then the third part is not only engage, but enable them, enable those leaders to take them to a conference, show them something, work with them, show them, and then come in with enforcement and standards and things to make it really come to life. That's how you'll be successful.
I love that. So we all know that diversity and inclusion plays such a big and crucial role in creating thriving environments. But all of you, probably at some point in your life, have had an ally or an advocate, that's helped lift you up or believed in you. So maybe I'll start with Stacey and Emily. Talk about, an experience in your life, or how have you actually leveraged advocacy and used allies, and how do you continue that to make sure that allyship becomes part of a thriving environment in your respective environments?
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to actually start with what I do to encourage diversity, equity, and inclusion on my teams, and then I'll get to some other parts. I think one of the biggest things that I've experienced is actually humanizing what we're talking about. DE&I can seem very theoretical and sometimes scary, and none of us really want to get it wrong. We actually genuinely, I think, as humans, want to treat each other with kindness and respect, but that requires us to humanize the experience. So for myself, with any teams I've ever worked on, we always, even remotely, will take time to get to know each other. So I would have a calendar oftentimes, and I would ask them to tell us what religious holiday are they celebrating, or what thing is important to you personally and your family, and take half an hour to educate us on what does that look like. What do you eat? Do you dance? And it humanizes the experience and helps us to understand that other culture and that other person in a very personal way, which then of course creates an emotional connection where we can build a better relationship. So I think humanizing and celebrating rather than fear is really important. The other thing that I do is I lead through example. So I spent 5 hours in a pride parade in 30-degree heat, Celsius, because I genuinely believe in the cause, and I wanted to show that and emulate that through my own actions. I think we can't just talk about it, you have to actually ally. So ally requires action, in my opinion. And then lastly, how has that personally affected me is I've had another woman leader really lift me up. She took me under her wing, sponsored me. She was my voice at the executive table when I wasn't there to tell them the great work that I was doing. She brought me from something completely uncyber related into cybersecurity and just let me run with it and said along the way, I know you're scared, but I'm not going to give you anything I don't think you can handle. So you've got this. So that's what I would say is lead through example, humanize, and then of course, be the ally. I think it's Mahatma Gandhi. I tried to look up the quote, but be the change that you want to see in the world.
I'm going to take it from another perspective. So I'm going to be an entry-level person in this story, and this is actually the story that happened to me. So when I first started in the early 90s in IT, I was, of course, the only woman in college. I was one of two that graduated, one of two in my team, Fortune 100 company. And my first time I went to go and I had done such a great job, I was such a go-getter, and I just thought I was the smartest thing ever. And I was ready for it, I was ready to be that next manager, and when was I going to get it? And I go in for that review, and he literally tells me, well, you're so pretty, what do you care about that? You're going to be off getting married and having babies before you know it. He literally said those words to me. And at the time, we didn't have Me Too. We didn't have anything like that. I was told I was lucky to be there. And in college, I had a gentleman I was put in lead of a team in college, and I'll never forget, he was from Pakistan, and I learned a lot about culture because he said, women don't get to go to school where I come from, and I will not be on your team. And so here I am, my first, and all this has led up to, you talk about a letdown. I went in there to advocate for myself. My dad, who was an Army colonel, and I had a lot of older brothers, but a lot of sisters who were all married at 18 and all great wives and mothers. None of them went into really big careers or anything. So here I was and I just thought, I thought this man is going to shut me down. And I thought, no, he's not going to shut me down because I've worked really hard and he just absolutely blew me off, never gave me a thought, never humanized me. And so I walked out of there and I said, have you ever heard of Mona Hill? Raise your hand if you ever heard of Mona Hill. Okay. Clarence Thomas, who is a Supreme Court justice, sexually harassed this woman for years, and she brought it up during his confirmation. I'm so surprised that you all don't know. Go read about her. Because Anita Hill, what did I say? I said Mona Hill. Do you know why I said Mona Hill? Mona Hill was the name of the scholarship I got to go to school. So excuse me for that. That's a whole nother thing of how I got to school on my own dime. But sorry, Anita. God bless you. Because I said the name, have you ever heard of Anita Hill? And he just looked at me and I go, well, I think you need to learn it. Because that's what you just said to me is wrong. And I've worked very hard. And so he immediately freaked out. And he was just like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, and just went through the whole, you're being sensitive. And before I left there, I almost felt guilty for what I said. But now, would you feel guilty so sorry about that. I wanted to make sure it is Anita Hill and the whole Clarence Thompson thing. And even while that was going on, that man was still sitting there saying that to me. So what I did, I didn't walk out of there and go straight to HR and freak out because I knew I didn't feel they were going to be my advocate. But what I did was I went out and I talked to the only woman that I knew had worked there for a long time, and I asked her, how do I overcome this? And she said, first thing she said was, you just First thing, don't go to HR, because then you're going to be labeled. Second thing, I'm so glad you came and talked to me. Let's figure out how we get this guy. And so what we did was I went back to him with a edited review, took his review, I edited it, and I went back to him. And I said, I'd really like to talk to your leader, to the boss, the CIO at the time. And here I'm this entry-level kid, right? And I said, I'd like to talk to the CIO about this. And he says, oh, no, we don't need to do that. So I got my 5% versus 1%, which was all I really wanted. And I was then sent to a different school, and I got to get some more stuff out of that. But if I had just sat there and gone, okay, just took my review as it was, I had to advocate for myself. And that's what I want to bring up. And you have to find those people that you can go talk to, and you have them. So what I love is that hopefully none of you have had to endure that. And that's what I want to bring up, is that it is okay. You will encounter bad people. They are out there. But what you have to do is not only advocate for yourself, tell that person in the moment that's not okay. Teach them. He went on to retire, and he had a long career after that. But he brought my name up more than one time, especially when we started Women in IT. It was one of the things I helped to do there as we started to get more women. But long to short, you have to postulate for yourself. That not only helps, you have to go tell your leaders that you want those positions, that you want to advance, and you have to advocate for yourself. I had one job to say Anita Hill, and I got it wrong.
So I know that with leadership comes great accountability when you have a seat at the table. So talk a little bit about when you have a seat at the table, how have you used your femalehood as an asset? And I'd love to hear from all the panelists.
Why don't we start over here?
Okay, sure, I can go ahead. Womanhood is the feminine attributes that come naturally to you. It could mean compassion to someone, creativity in my world with designers, and I have seen that. They bring their creative best to the table, and they fill my wardrobe with beautiful colors and clothes that I enjoy every single day. It could still mean being honest, transparent, being nurturing. It could mean a lot of different feminine qualities that you could really bring to table and lean on, because that's your natural gift. That's where you lean naturally. And it's said, right, as part of your leadership, you should accelerate and sharpen what you're good at while you are also working on your blind spots. So us being feminine have something inherent, which could be creativity, could be compassion, could be very feminine characteristic that we always lean on and naturally is our asset. Let's use that to our advantage, and that will always help.
So in my work, it's very evident that I'm often the only female at the table. And I happen to, at this time, be one of the only vice presidents of engineering. And so what I do to make sure that I use my sisterhood and reach across the organization is not only within the organization that I lead, I also take time to mentor and sponsor people across the organization and making sure that I can help coach them, I can help lift them up. I can also, when we have open positions or stretch assignments, I can reach across the organization through that network that you create and making sure that you can lift them up and give the support. I think the other thing that's really important is that we talk about things, that we're open and honest, and that we talk about the fact that I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend. And I think that oftentimes at work, especially sitting at a table with a bunch of my male colleagues, they don't often talk about it. And so I brag. I brag when my daughter got a role in a play. I make sure to highlight the fact that I have a privilege of going to volunteer at her school, because I think if you do that, you start to realize and understand that it's more common and comfortable in an environment.
So I'll actually just point out some things that have become very evident to me as an attendee at this conference. I think the fact that we're all here today speaks volumes about a woman's capability of creating community. And I think it's, in my experience, something that women are very, very good at is creating community. And that's advocacy. It's also a place where you can feel safe and be vulnerable. And also lead through kindness. Those are some of the attributes that I've seen in really powerful female leaders. And I think vulnerability is another one that I've seen loud and clear. I think it was on our last panel that they had said vulnerability engenders trust. It's the only way that you can create those strong relationships, is being willing to put yourself out there. And in my experience, and also what I've seen here, that's self-evident, that women come to the table as their whole selves, as their vulnerable selves, and create community through that experience.
So, absolutely. Perfect. I've got to tell you, that's what I've lived my last two roles. I was a chief technology officer for the state of Kansas when the pandemic hit. Only for 18 months, but got a data center lit, and everybody, 18,000 employees virtual, and a state house virtual for the first time in less than 18 months. And now at Nashville Electric, we've done almost the same thing. And I had to tell them, first off, the first year I called it the year of kindness. And I meant it. And so, again, as a CIO, you have to market to your team. You have to, as in my femalehood, I use that nurturing. I use that nurturing every single day, whether it's growing people or building a team. And that vulnerability that you have to share, but also share that vision. And so as a woman, I try to paint, I call it my strategy, structure, culture in my mind, and I have to be able to sell them on that, or why would they follow? You know, if you don't have a vision and don't know where you're going, that's where you're going to take people, okay? So remember that. Think about that. You got to have a vision. And once I paint that vision and I think, hey, here's where I think we should go. Now, what do you all think? And they all just looked at me and said, you just asked me my opinion. I was told I wasn't paid to have an opinion. I'm like, absolutely. And I have 150 contractors, 3 NES employees and 150 contractors. We've done more. Some of these contractors have been with my company for 15, 20 years across staffing companies, all this other stuff, but they really hadn't accomplished much. We've accomplished more in 18 months than they did in 18 years, and I say it every day. And it's because of that team, and it's because I ask them, what do you think? And then lastly, that nurturing. Giving that year of kindness, I said, I need for all of you, I'm going to ask stupid questions, and I'm going to it's going to seem like I'm judging, but I'm asking, please tell me, and unless you've done something illegal, no one for this year, I promise you, is going to lose their role. I promise you. And now I've got to prove it to you every day. And so about 6 months in, I realized I had to let someone go. But we work on that contract at a fiscal year basis, and I paid him 6 more months so that I had to keep my word. When you say things like that, it's like your kids when you tell them you're going to ground them. You better ground them or they're going to keep doing it. Same with your team. If you tell them something, you've got to live up or you've lost trust, and you can lose it in a second. It takes years to build, and you can lose it in a second. So that's what I try to do every day, is come in, not mess it up, make sure that they know they're empowered, and make sure I'm empathetic, even when I'm criticizing. I don't want to say criticizing, even when I'm critiquing or I'm asking questions, you have to have that empathy when you ask the questions, especially in a male-dominated world, or they think you're just the biddy asking, trying to tear up their work. So remember that.
So we all know that the tech industry is constantly evolving, constantly changing. Maybe I'll start with Shitabi and Jessica. How do you stay abreast of like emerging technologies, help your company stay relevant? And then how do you build a culture of like continuous learning and development in your teams?
So that's a good question. And I was, change is inevitable. I think as we grow up from, being born to learning and adapting, it's part of our lives, everybody's. Has anybody known of Charles Darwin? I'm sure everybody knows. And what he said, he is an evolutionary biologist who said many, many years ago, right, that it's not that species which is the strongest or the smartest that will survive. It's that species which can adapt to change, which is fit for future. Only that species would survive. And when I talk to my team, yes, there is 100% resistance to change, but when you quote and when you talk about how nature has made us equipped to change and adapt to change as humans, we should be agile enough in our professional world to be able to change as well. And when you break it down and those concepts are tied back to our roots, it's easier for the teams to absorb. And it's also easier for my own self to embrace change. Because if I'm not sold, how will I go back and ensure that my team would understand the need for change? And that's how we make it happen. And sometimes it's rough, sometimes it's easy.
So for me, when keeping up with the latest technology, it's always important to read the tech blogs, go to different conferences, read the books, take internal trainings. All of those things are important. But really the deep learning for myself and delivering a culture of continuous learning innovation is just really empowering our teams to learn. And then they come back and do small lunches, small brown bags, virtual talks, and they're teaching others what they learned. They're demonstrating an actual project that they did. They are teaching us new technologies. And then through that, we all get a deeper learning. So I really foster the culture of learning, teaching, and learning as an ongoing cycle because it allows us to pay forward. And I think the other thing that we do that's really impressive at our company is we have twice-a-year hackathons. And we actually have amazing experiments that the teams actually put together presentations. I volunteered to be a judge multiple times. And then we actually see these products become part of our product, like to our customers in real life. And we actually embrace that not only twice a year, but then every 6 weeks we now take a day out. We call it a cafe day. And we allow people to take a training, work on a certification, have no meetings that day, read a book. And it's really just another way of fostering that continuous learning and improvement.
So all of you are very busy women, and I know balance can sometimes feel very elusive. So this is a bit of a fun question. With balancing your professional or your personal responsibilities, talk to us about maybe a favorite self-care strategy or maybe any counsel that you can give to any of us that are struggling to find that balance.
I'm not doing too well with the whole self-care right now. First I would admit that, so hopefully I'll get over it. Because different times in my career I've done real well. But the pandemic made me kind of lazy. I don't know why. I got out of the habit of travel, and I got out of the habit of my routine, which was get up, work out, go do, blah. And then I got to just get up, right? Because it was like the computer's right there. I can just shower and go. It's right there. So, yeah. And then my husband feed me. He's like, you really don't go to the bathroom or eat during the day, do you? I'm like, no, I really don't. I'm on call after call. And he was just like, we've been married together for 20 years. And he's like, God, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah. So thank you for the 30 pounds when the food starts coming. I didn't realize that, how much I was eating, I guess. But my biggest thing is you got to take that time. And if you don't, your team won't. Remember that. If you don't take the time, your team's not going to. So be that shadow of a leader. I do a couple things religiously. Is I give myself 15 minutes in the morning, and I do not check my email when I get out of bed. Okay? So please do this for yourself. It will give you so much more calmness and zen of your day. Do not look at your email in bed, and give yourself 15 minutes. So I try to, when I leave the house, I know traffic could be whatever, right? I work from home most of the time. We're hybrid still. I'm blessed. But I try to go in 3 days a week because I've got people on staff that are in there because somebody's got to be working in the data center. I have 3 data centers, 3 very large data centers, and I have a few thousand people on site every day. And so I try to go in. But the other thing, I give myself 15 minutes in the afternoon. And then on Fridays or Mondays, which are the 2 I always try to be from home, I try to give myself 2 hours a week of thinking time, of uninterrupted in the middle of the day thinking time. Because I'll find out a way not to do it in the morning and in the afternoon. So in the middle of the day, thinking time. And so if you can do those little things, hopefully that thinking time will turn into my workout someday.
So on a personal level, I've been a single mom-ish for 10 years. And I say ish because I was on my own with my daughter for several years. And then I met this lovely man who happens to be in the Canadian Armed Forces. So he lives on base all week, and he comes home on the weekend. So my life is a little different because I'm it, right? I'm the taxi driver for dentists and swimming lessons, and if somebody's sick, it's me. And I also worked a global role previously where it was very early mornings and very late nights, and trying to move that around my family and my own responsibilities. It was difficult, I'm not going to lie. And that last talk resonated with me about, not putting too much in. So I'll give you some of the advice that has helped me along the way. A very good friend and mentor of mine said, build the foundation when she's young. So build those blocks of love, those unbreakable foundational blocks of love when your kids are young. And then when she's older and she doesn't really want to hang out with you anyway, which is right about now, then I can soar in a different direction. I took that and I very, very specifically chose roles. So I didn't have a clear trajectory. I moved around to the roles that fit my life and where I needed to go. And I had honest conversations with my manager about my needs. Like I have to be traveling between this time and this time to pick up, to et cetera, whatever it was. So I also had to be more honest about what was going on in my personal life. And I'll be honest now, that was really hard because I don't like sharing my personal life very much. It's a very vulnerable place for me. So that's one piece of advice is build your foundation and make very clear, specific choices for your career that work for you and work for your family. To go back to another panel, that also means that if you have a manager that is not supporting you and your personal life and what you need to vote with your feet by choosing someone else who can help you. And during COVID, my family went through an extremely difficult time, and I needed that support more than ever, and not always received depending on who I was reporting to. So there are sometimes difficult decisions, but at the end of the day, you're the most important. You and your family, your health, your mental health, all of that is most important. So I'll say that, and then the other piece of advice that I've really clung to is there's no such thing as balance. It doesn't exist ever. So does anyone know the woman of justice with the scales? Yeah, a couple people, right? The scale, it's never balanced. And that there is no work-life balance. So I think of work and life as a teeter-totter. There are times when I say to my daughter, we're going into an implementation and this week is going to be rough. And now that she's older, I'll say, and I need your help, right? I need you to help me prep dinner, or I need you to wash dishes, or I need you to forgive me for ordering pizza 2 nights in a row. Like, we have to figure it out. So it's a teeter-totter. And then sometimes my family pops up as needing more of my time. So that's important. And then the last thing, and I'm going to say this to every single person in the room who's ever felt guilty or bad, you're not alone. I feel like a bad mom pretty much every day, even though I'm told I'm pretty good at it. Give yourself grace, please. I have a list, a Post-it on my fridge of, oh my gosh, I forgot to thaw out anything today. What we can eat tonight, right? So it's a list of things that I can cook in 15 minutes flat. And I give myself the grace to say, it's not a 3-course meal, but it's pancakes and bacon, and it's delicious. Or it's an omelet, or it's a grilled cheese, but give yourself grace to not be perfect, to not have perfect balance. You're not supposed to, ever. You're just supposed to manage it with grace for yourself and for your family. Love yourself a little bit more.
Wow, Emily, that was really inspirational. I too don't like calling it work-life balance, so I appreciate that you brought that up. I tend to say work-life synergy. Like, I find what works best for my life, and I make it fit. And so I learned probably about 10 years ago, I was going from meeting to meeting, and I asked a more senior leader, like, how do you do it? How do you manage it all? And he actually talked to me about how he scheduled his calendar, where he focused on building himself, giving him that thought time. He put that in first. He talks about building the business. What are the meetings that he has to go to, specifically, where the rest of his team might be able to fill in? You don't have to be in every meeting just because it's on your calendar. And then he talks about building the organization. And it's so important to have those one-on-one, those team meetings, just being able to mentor and coach others. But what he didn't have on his that he talked about was family. And so I've added in the 4th one, where I start out with what's the time that I have for myself, building me, and then I put in what's the right thing for my family. And living in a global world and leading global teams, oftentimes in the afternoon, I have a block there for family. That way I can actually be part of the afternoon pickup or go to a sports game, because I know I can sign back on and I work with the teams in Tokyo. So I really look for that synergy, and I look at how I manage my calendar proactively.
So well said, Jessica, because I also work in a very global role, and there are times where it's 11 p.m. and I'm still talking to the Hong Kong team. And there are times where I'm up at 7 a.m. and still in my office. So it's truly that integration of that work and then how do you fit in your life there. And if that does not work, then maybe going back to the traditional 9 to 5 roles that truly suits your family. So it's the choice that we have to make based upon the options that we have. And it's okay to try it out as well, because you may be fearful of, hey, how will I manage being on a call until 11 p.m. and then getting up ready for kids in the morning? It's okay to give it a try and see if you can fit your schedules in there. And if it's not, that's totally fine as well. The choice is yours. You can walk away and then go back to a very traditional model. But I think what I really liked from the conversations was managing your time as your asset and planning it from, the moment you wake up till you go to bed, and having a slot for every single thing, whether it's family, whether it's my own meditation that I do, or it's my physical exercise, it's swim, it's taking my kids to aftercare, etc. And I think if you manage that well and plan it well, there's a likelihood you can integrate the work and the life together.
I love that. That was so insightful from all of you. Okay, so we're going to take just 10 minutes and open it up for some Q&A. So do any of you have any questions?
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. So my question is thinking about some of the advice that's traditional in leadership and in tech, and I'm curious if there's some advice that you reject, or some piece of advice where you're like, that works for you and it does not work for me, that maybe you wish you knew earlier.
I will tell you the best advice I ever got was there's a couple things. One of which is it's hard to accept the best from somebody else. And if someone's doing the best, make sure you acknowledge that, because that's what's important. But for me, on the other hand, it also matters that you realize that you've done the work. And so I kind of reject the notion of imposter syndrome. I absolutely reject that, because it's fear and you're scared. And so for me, that's the biggest thing that I've always had to reject the fact that someone was out to, because I'm a woman, I'm not getting that role because of this. I reject that victim mentality. I'm going to get that role because I'm damn qualified and I'm good at what I do, and that's why I'm showing up every day.
As I said at the beginning, I didn't start off in tech. I'm going to just let you know a little bit about my age. I had university, and my roommate had a super cool thing, which was an automated typewriter, because there were not computers or internet to be found when I went to university. So there's an entire generation of us, of women, where I think one of the questions was, what was your dream? Your dream was often restricted to the things that you were supposed to do, right? So I was going to be a musician and an opera singer and an artist and a teacher, and the things that were traditionally expected of young girls at the time. So I would say one of the things, and I'm hearing it a lot more in the industry and not just in technology, is that sometimes we get so focused on the hard skills, like how many hours have you logged coding, how many hours have you, give me all the experience, and we don't necessarily look at people for their competencies. And with the pace of change in technology, it's a great story, and I apologize whoever told me this, I don't remember who it was, but someone had posted a job to say that they needed somebody to work in deep data, and a person responded saying, and the job description said, you must have had 10 years experience. And he said, we didn't have this 10 years ago. I can't do it. So especially now, it's really important to look at people for their competencies. Like, are they really great problem solvers? Are they creative thinkers? Are they, do they have technical aptitude? Can they pick things up quickly and run with them? Are they a team player? If they have those things in place, I'm a very good example where we can lean in and lift up and bring people who didn't even think technology was an option and bring them into the field. So it's not necessarily always reaching for new hires, but sometimes looking even within your own company or people, source of friends, this amazing networking audience, and beyond, for those opportunities where we can leverage competency rather than hard skill to bring more women into the field and create some fantastic new technology talent.
So I think the way that I would answer that question is I've been given advice or feedback before that I didn't agree with. And the way that I handle that now is I just say thank you. I can return it. I can donate it. I can pay it forward. Or I can choose to return it. That's the way I think about feedback.
One advice that has been given to me is you should get to your goal as fast as you can, and that's what matters. To me, the how is very important, and I cannot underscore or undermine relationships that I've built or ethics and values that I've created. So for me, that how is very important. And, yes, people say, no, it's truly, did you achieve it or not? That matters to me, that how matters. And for some, they may not see it or realize it, but towards the end or when you look at yourself, it matters to you. So, that's one advice that I would say I've rejected right away from a number of them.
Do you have any other questions? Oh, yeah, sure.
So I feel that we have these absolutely wonderful panelists, but I've got a question for Grace, because I would love to know what inspires you.
What inspires me? Everyone has a different philosophy of life, and sometimes I do think that painful challenges in your life happen for a reason, and you tend to find yourself where an interaction or a talk may just seem like something that just happened as part of your daily life, but then maybe, I don't know who it was that was, it was the speaker before us that was saying she was driving in her car, and how sometimes a conversation can replay in your mind while you're doing something else mundane, and you can't get it out of your head, but that interaction can change your life or change the feng shui of maybe a rut that you're in. So what inspires me is just believing that things that happen in your life happen for a reason. And eventually the universe, I think, is conspiring for your happiness. It may not feel like it at the present moment because you're like, this sucks. I want to use a different word, but I won't. But I think that's what inspires me, is believing that it all will make sense at some point, right? And so knowing that we're all here probably for a reason. Hopefully you had some interaction or some insight today that really actually touched you, and it will maybe challenge yourself, or maybe you'll actually have a little bit more self-confidence. I know I struggle with that all the time, right? And so just having the ability to believe that, okay, maybe I don't always have to be supporting someone. Maybe I can be more in the limelight. Those are things that inspired me. It's just believing that it happened for a certain why. Yeah. I have 2 minutes, so I did want to ask one last question because I think it's a good question. Oftentimes when we go through life, sometimes you wish that someone had tapped you on the shoulder way back when, or told you, that's not something for you to worry about. So if you could talk back to the younger version of yourself, back when you started out as a technology female leader, what would that advice have been to your younger self?
Now, I'm a Southern lady, okay, so I have to say it, but help me understand goes a lot further than what the hell. So remember that.
Unless they're your children. Some advice I would give to myself, absolutely, even now I have to remind myself, is the SVP, the EVPs, the CEOs of the world, all of the people who you think are shiny and unbreakable, the people who you are terrified to talk to, none of them have everything together. All of them, including the people up here, are nervous to come and speak, are going through their own personal challenges. In my career, people have sometimes said, oh, you're so chipper and happy and you laugh on the calls and, you've got no care in the world. I have so many cares. I have so many. And I choose to share those with vulnerability, but I think if I were younger, I wish I'd known that everybody just doesn't have it all together. We're all faking it till we make it. We all clean up nice, I think is the saying. And everyone's got their own story. So anything that you think is unachievable, any person that you've put on to a pedestal, they've all got chinks in their armor. So don't be afraid to go for the biggest job, the biggest thing, and know that you're going to get there no matter how hard it is right now.
So if I were to speak to my younger self, I would say don't let those automatic negative thoughts creep in. I think it was Dr. Daniel Amen who wrote that those are called the ants, automatic negative thoughts. Ants can ruin a picnic. They can also ruin your mind. You can ruin your confidence. Don't let them in. Just remember that you're powerful and capable, and never, ever self-doubt.
Never.
And I would say to my younger self, it's okay. It's okay things don't work out. It's okay you want to cry out loud. It's okay to fail. It's okay to accept this project is not going to meet the time, budget, deadlines. It's okay.
Yeah, two powerful words. It's okay. Yeah,
It's okay.
It's okay. So thank you, Stacy, Emily, Jessica, Shtabi. Thank you so much for sharing and putting yourself out there. It's not easy, and sharing your stories with us. It's so wonderful to end on a high note. And let's give a big round of applause to our panelists.